Hello and welcome to Amrita Swadan. On the show today we have with us Sharon Loven, who has dedicated her life to presenting and promoting excellence in Indian performing arts. Born and brought up in United States, Sharon Loven came to India in 1973. Since then, she's become very popular for her excellence in three Indian dance forms, Chau, Odissi and Manipuri. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you. Lovely to be with you.
You were born in a family where your parents, mother, father, both had no connection with dance or any Indian art forms. How did dance happen to you?
Well, my parents were creative people. My father was a chemical engineer. My mother had done a degree in clinical psychology, but was working as a partner in business helping my father. But what you do as a job has nothing to do with your interests and your passions. So I grew up in a home that had full libraries of books where we attended performances, international films, and it was extremely important that we were able to do whatever we wanted. Piano lessons, dance classes, travel, everything. And it was very difficult for my parents, but that was what they valued.
So which was that performance that transformed you as a person and you took the decision to opt for dance forms? It transformed your heart, mind, soul.
That's a wonderful question because many people think that there is one thing that sparks you. And I feel that what's more important is that from as early as possible and throughout your life, keep discovering, keep traveling, keep seeing and learning about other people, other arts, so that when I'm, as a child, figuring out that every year you're going to be more busy the next year, I should take that class that I know I won't go too far in, and I should make that trip if I possibly can. And that way, you have a rich tapestry of experiences and knowledge and foundation. And then gradually, as you go along, you have to let go of a few threads so that the weave gets tighter because there isn't time to do everything. So rather than one thing that inspired me, I grew up, as I said, where I saw things from all over the world. So I first of all knew that there wasn't just one way of looking at things. When I was 10, I saw Satyajit Ray's opera, Panther Panchali, same age as Durga. We had family friends from India, a sculptor from Baroda, Narendra Patel, so I had some familiarity with culture. And gradually, whenever I had the opportunity to see or learn, I did. At university, I realized that my interests were too broad for the curriculum in one college of the university, and I petitioned the Board of Governors to let me create my own degree, which they did, Humanities, Fine Arts, and Asian Studies. So I took things about South Asia, I took ethnomusicology in the School of Music, Arts of Asia in Art and Archaeology Department, but I also took literature, philosophy, social science.
So basically multiple things you wanted to do in life.
I did. In fact, when I was, I think by the age of 12 or 13, I reluctantly accepted that I really could not be a dancer. I love dancing, but I felt that dancing demanded a single-minded focus, that you must be practicing for at least 3-6 hours a day, rehearsing, teaching, etc., and that I just loved too many other things to limit myself. So I also actually grew up doing a great deal of puppetry and theater. And when I came to India, Jim Henson had offered me a position with the Muppets if I wound up not going. So reluctantly, I'm no longer a puppeteer, although I do have a huge collection of puppets and masks.
Yeah, I see the puppets around your house.
They're everywhere, yes, yes. And I actually learned the masked form of Chau, Saraikela, so that I could perform it in the Festival of Masks in the USA, in the US, and it was like a connection with it. And of course, I've taught it, and I've actually done productions where I've used puppetry and brought it in. But the thing is that today, I am the happiest person in the world, being able to still go deeply into wonderful texts to bring out the inner realities that we all share and to try to make those apparent to the audiences. And when I'm doing this, I realize that it would have been foolish, insane, if this had been a career plan. So I've only gotten here by not being inspired by one thing, but being inspired by the whole world.
So why you started with Manipuri dance?
By chance, a wonderful woman, Minati Roy, we called her Lily, was getting a second master's in education at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and put up a little sign, Manipuri dance classes, at the local community center. I knew Manipuri from books, the Podlai, the skirt, but of course one doesn't see it. But it was my first opportunity to take a regular class rather than just one master class from someone passing through.
And you fell in love gradually?
Well, I enjoyed it. Everyone has their own style of movement, and my style is lyrical. So while I love every style, I'm more suited to the lyricism that's in Manipuri, the flow or Odissi.
Maybe more because you did ballet before.
No, ballet, you see, in Western dance we have, for instance, Bharatanatyam. I call it the Merce Cunningham style of Indian dance. Merce Cunningham, it's like diamond-like in geometry, and it's for long, lean bodies, beautiful long lines. I'm more Humphrey Lamone style of modern dance, and that's very lyrical and flowing. In fact, one great choreographer, Paul Taylor, had brought his company to India, and at a dance exchange, I performed some Odissi, and he came up and whispered in my ear. He said, Sharon, I've seen a lot of Indian dance. I've never really liked it until I saw yours. And my feeling was, it's because, number one, Odissi is lyrical. His flowing kind of movement has an echo in that. And then I'm also bringing to Odissi my background in that, so that there's kind of like a Gharana connection. Yeah. So I love Manipuri, and basically, obviously I had no intention to be a professional Manipuri dancer. I wanted to come to India. I wanted to come with a cultural entree, doing something that would give me some real flavor, real taste, the rus of being in India, rather than just as a tourist. And so I applied for a Fulbright scholarship. Very challenging, because in those days I had to make a 16mm film. This is pre-video. And found somebody who would share the cost of a camera, applied, got it, was delayed a year because this was just post Bangladesh war and India was changing its rules on scholars. The beauty is that when I got here, I had finished my master's degree in dance, so I did not have to rush back to finish. I had done a semester of photography and a semester of video production as preparation for coming to India. Basically, I thought, I'll be here, I'll document, and then this will inform what I do, perhaps teaching at a university.
So from the United States, when you come to India, were you afraid to face the cultural shock or cultural difference?
There's no cultural shock. The challenge is what you or I or any young woman faces when you're living in a new city. If there's nothing to eat, is it safe after dark to go out to get a loaf of bread? How much does the dhobi charge to iron something? Where do I get something? And these things of managing life that every woman faces when you're in a city. My mother faced it. when she came from a small town in Pennsylvania to Detroit looking for work during World War II. And I've always believed, well, I haven't believed it, I've discovered it, that doing what you have a passion for, doing what you have the desire to do, is much better than having courage. I've never had courage, but I think naivete will get you through. But I've never felt afraid, and in fact, there would be times over the years as a young woman traveling in India, I might arrive somewhere and the train is late and it's dark and you get into a rickshaw and you know that they know you have no idea where you're going. I always found that people treated me as their daughter, their sister, and took good care. There were absolutely no issues.
So what is easier to learn, dance or language?
Oh my goodness. I speak the language of dance, and what was hard to learn, and I haven't learned it still, is the language of politics. In that way, I must say I'm still very American.
You're still learning.
Well, no, I don't want to learn. I never, you see, India operates in a very feudal and hierarchical way. And that was so alien that I didn't even realize it. When I started to realize it, I realized that there was nothing, I had no tools because I don't belong to anybody's community. I don't have a father, a brother, a batchmates. My batchmates were all in America. And I was not interested in having a patron or a sugar daddy. I've always believed that your independence as a human and that you see what you're doing. And so there was never any question of compromising values for anything. And so I accepted that I danced because I loved to. I was never ambitious for a career because that was impossible and unrealistic. I just loved to dance. I loved to learn. And then someone would ask me to dance and I would, and then somebody else would say, oh my goodness, this is equal to everyone else. And in '78, I gave a performance in Calcutta, half a program of Manipuri, half of Odissi. And Biman Ghosh, the head of HMV Records, said, Sharon, you've already reached the top 10% of dancers in the country, but you will never be recognized because you're a foreigner. And I'm like, I accept that. I mean, that is the way it is. But I'm just so happy that I got to dance here.
So meeting a guru like Kelucharan Mahapatra, did it transform your journey?
Oh, absolutely. I had absolutely zero intention of seriously pursuing Odissi. I came to the end of 2 years studying Manipuri. I was very blessed that my Fulbright was renewed, extended. And at the end, Guru Kelucharan Mahapatra was returning to give another workshop in Odissi. I had seen it the year before, and I thought I must learn something academically about a style that's more mainstream. In Manipuri, you know, we're just the hands, there's no mudra. And so I don't know from this to this to this, I don't know anything. And so I thought, let me academically know something about something a little more mainstream. I told my Manipuri guru, if it has any effect, tell me, I'll stop. What happened was, number one, Kelu Babu said I learned faster than anyone he'd taught because I had such a foundation in understanding body movement from my 17 years of ballet and modern. And he taught me 3 dances in less than 3 months. He insisted that I record music. He took help from experienced dancers to have a costume made for me. And so when I went back to the US and taught Manipuri at the university for the summer, I also performed Odissi. He insisted the following summer that I was featured and performed in Orissa. And then, finally, I mean, he is the greatest guru, the most generous, the best pedagogy. But then, with his encouragement, I discovered that what I love the most is Abhinaya. And I know that's very strange, because the reasonable stereotype is that foreigners are very hardworking and disciplined, and they'll get the physical aspect of the dance, but they can't possibly get the real feeling. And I just think that from my childhood, my empathizing with whatever I saw and stepping into it allowed me to develop the skills as an artist, as a human being, as a performer, to be able to enter into something. And then the advantage to not always knowing the language, whether it's Sanskrit, Odia, I've done things in Malayalam, Telugu, Dogra, Bengali, whatever, is that when I study a text, I know that I must understand it, I must embody it, so that you don't need to know the text, so that you will understand. And it is such a thrilling thing to be able to reach out and communicate with audiences.
You were equally good in all the three forms of dance that you have learned. But why you chose Odissi as the main form of dance for yourself, for your career?
Good question, but I didn't. People for many years, they said, you have to choose. No one will take you seriously unless you're just doing one style. And I'm like, if you have 3 children, are you going to choose one that's better? They're so different. The energy, the feeling. Manipuri is my first love. I love Odissi and I love Chow. However, in Manipuri, very reluctantly, I realized that the challenge to have live music in Delhi, the challenge to keep developing with new choreography. I was fortunate that my primary guru, Guru Singhajit Singh, had beautiful technique, but his focus was on his company, the Triveni Ballet, which did wonderful ballets. And he was not willing even to accompany me on Pung when I performed. So there wasn't the backing that some students get. And I did also study in Manipur. I studied Katal Cholam, Lai Haroba with great masters, a little bit of Ras. But finally, I had to accept that it would be difficult to go beyond repeating what I had learned. Whereas in Odissi, every time someone invites you, whether it's a Tansan Tyagaraja festival, Nishamgadi, Sankat Mochan, here is an opportunity to create, take new text and go deeper. Now with Chow, which I love very much, Chow is not a style that you can do what used to be a 2.5-hour program as a solo. And so that meant working sometimes with a group. On a couple of occasions, I would spend the summer in Saraikela, bringing artists from Mayurbhanj and doing productions that I did at Kamani and for Doordarshan. I did Jeevan Rekha, which took all of the traditional dances and created a whole theatrical evening out of them, combining shikari from the 2 styles, combining the nature choreographies into one piece. And then I danced duets. I created a solo nadi. And so I would do Chow as a couple of items in a program. I would do it then in these productions that I did. And I would still do in lecture demonstrations for a long time. Up until the mid-80s, I would sometimes tour doing programs where I would do 1 hour of Manipuri and then maybe, which would be like 7 costume changes, and then Odissi, and then masked and or unmasked Chow.
Knowing 3 dance forms is good, But did it never confuse you on the stage?
One time only, when I was doing first part of the program, I don't know, either Manipuri or Odissi, and then changing during interval. At the end of the first half of the program, I was thinking about what I had done, and then when I entered stage in the second half, I realized that I hadn't shifted my energy. So that happened one time only. Basically, I believe if you do more than one style, if you very consciously are doing them, rehearsing them at the same time, that when you start to drift in terms of shape, energy, timing, whatever, you realize it and you can bring it back. In the same way, for instance, if you are speaking, you speak several languages, everyone knows more than one. If you are speaking them fairly regularly, both, it's not too hard to shift.
Yeah, it's not hard.
If you're talking one, then your mind, it's going to be really hard to get into it.
Which is the toughest of the three?
Every art is the toughest. They're all tough in different ways. You see, it's just like one great, a great organizer in America, Dr. Balwant Dixit, who organized all of the great music artists of India. Thousands, 1,500 concerts from Raviji, Vishwamohan Bhatt, everybody. And he said someone would say, who is better? And he would say, when you're talking about Bhimsen Joshi and Jasraj, there's no question of better. Both are top. You have your own preference, or at a certain time. In the same way, every art form, if a great artist, if a good artist, if someone is bringing to it and bringing it out, there is not one that is harder or easier. There might be harder or easier at certain steps. You know, one time when my daughter was small, she said, you know, Mama, Odissi is actually harder than Kuchipudi or Bharatanatyam. And I laughed because obviously it's perspective. She said, when you're bending, in Kuchipudi you put your heel out and you go up and down. In Bharatanatyam you're bending, but your leg comes out straight. But in Odissi, you have to stay bent and not come up and keep the knee bent and be lifting the leg. So I thought that was a very good analysis of one small element of the dance. But you see, the difference in every art form between being good and being great is very small. And it takes so much effort, so much riyaz, and also half of your riyaz is your life development.
Since you opted for dance, what changes do you see in yourself as a person?
It has transformed me in the sense that when I came to India to continue learning Indian dance and then to develop other styles, I came because of an interest in the depth of the culture, in philosophy, but I did not come from a religious or spiritual perspective. And I know that I get disciples who are foreigners, who perhaps had come because of, say, Vaishnav Bhakti, and then they discover that, oh, dance is used as a spiritual expression, and they want to learn dance. So I think what's different is that as I've been involved in the dance, as I've been involved in the text, I feel very fortunate that the focus of my thinking, the research, is about love, truth, and beauty, but not saccharine, artificial, superficial, mundane, but metaphysical love, not saccharine, but real beauty. And now, that does not mean that if one dances, one becomes a spiritual person, any more than if one goes to the temple you become a spiritual person. But it is a door that you can use, just like rituals. It's what is your intention behind it.
It's up to you, basically.
Absolutely. So you can take this opportunity that you are using these themes, these ideas, and how can you understand it farther? And how can you share it? So that as a performing artist, the thing that keeps me here and the thing that I love most about the dance is that even though it's perfectly fine to be entertaining, to do pyrotechnics, to just be beautiful, classical Indian dance allows the artist to attempt to give the audience a darshan, to allow them to share with the audience an unselfish aspiration for achieving non-duality toward moksha. Now, this is temporary. This is not the same as really great wisdom by studying, but ideally everyone should leave the performance space slightly higher from wherever they were on that ladder. And that, to me, that attempt is the most wonderful thing to be able to attempt and to have as a gift for the audience.
So can you demonstrate the difference between the bhav of the three dance forms that you know to our audience?
Well, you see, that's a very interesting question. But I have to tell you, when I used to perform for Doordarshan back in the 70s, the cameraman would be taking a mid-shot, and I'm doing Manipuri, and there is no shifting of expression. Your eyes are focused on your hands, and basically it's almost like a meditation. I'm looking at my hands, and frankly, I can't even see you. I don't even know that you're there. And the expression, the bhav, which is deeply devotional, it comes out of the entire body movement. So there's no looking out and focus, and it's just, it's very, very soft. So, as I said, Doordarshan, they'd be like doing a mid-shot, waiting for the expression to change. It doesn't change, and not even taking long enough.
Can we have like this for Chow and...
Well, you see, now in Chow, now there's three main forms of Chow, right? Purliya Chow, which I would not attempt. I've seen Gambhir Singh do somersaults, land on his knees. That's really tough. Saraikela Chow is worn with a mask. But even behind the mask, you have the expression, as in Mayurbhanj Chow, my main style. Now, in Mayurbhanj Chow, the way my guru, Krishna Chandra Nayak, taught me, again, you start from inside, the feeling comes out, and it will show. So if he's doing, for instance, Dandi, you have to start with that feeling of the young brahmachari going out into the world. The expression comes through because there's a very gradual shift with the body. And of course it comes out through your eyes, but you don't have the exaggerated expression that you would have in Bharatanatyam or Odissi. Of course, if you're doing Shiva, then Shiva would be, obviously if it's Daksha Yagna, then you've got some fierceness. But it's only when you get to like Odissi, Bharatanatyam, then you have the more focused expression. And then the most elaborate is Kathakali, the most sophisticated. In Odissi, let's see, what would I show? Well, the simplest, of course, is just that in the beginning of Git Govind, you see the beautiful flowers, the buzzing of bees, the cuckoo, and the song going out. Sometimes the bees disturb you. And if that one that you love isn't there, you feel some pain, but not too much, because, of course, you'll be dancing with him. And then there's always, for instance, Abhisarika. So you have Radha going out into the forest, hoping that there are no men and women there to see her. As she goes, she sees the beautiful silvery moonlight shining on everything, making it so magical. And as she goes, there's a snake. Someone catches her hair. But then when Krishna, who she wants to meet, when he comes, how she laughs. I mean, it's difficult talking and doing because you're using right and left side of the brain. But what I teach when I'm teaching Abhinaya is that it's very simple. Very simple. Of course, simple things are not always easy to do. Simple is, first of all, you have to understand the poetry by word, by line, by context. What kind of a heroine is it? It's different if it's in Sanskrit in Gita Govind than it is in Odia. It's different depending on the age. If you're talking Sangam poetry or you're talking 12th century. What was the poet's intention? Basically get your whole understanding and what you're communicating. So that, for instance, everyone says, oh my goodness, all these nayakas, they're pining and they're moaning, and where is Krishna? And this is really retrograde. Nowadays, why should a girl do that? The whole point is she's separated as long as her ego is making her feel jealous that he's been with another. Because actually, we are all one, non-duality. And so when she lets go of that ego, when he says, give up your pride, put your foot on my head, then she actually has the union. So you have to be thinking the individual and where it's all leading. Once you understand your text, then you have to show it. Then you have to feel it. Once you know it, you have to feel it. You have to feel it. You have to have goosebumps. You have to become, whether you're the Saki or the Sutradhar or the hero or the hero, you must internalize that. Then you really won't go wrong in whatever comes out. And then you have to allow it to come out. Don't have it so subtle that only your mother could see what you're feeling.
Coming to the last question, you did Chau. So in those days when you learned Chau or you decided to learn, it was primarily done by men. Wasn't it tough?
No, it wasn't. Because I had 17 years of ballet and modern dance training. The only reason I took up Chau was because I had the foundation to do it. Again, I didn't want to be collecting dances. I really don't like people who would come and who want to learn dances and don't do them properly. But I saw theater practitioners coming from abroad to spend just a couple of weeks learning Chau because they thought, wow, this movement, using the torso, all of these things, it's going to just do wonders for my physical theater. And I thought, I'm a trained dancer. I'm right here. Let me cross the street and take some classes, even if I only learn this much. And what I discovered was that, of course, the style, the import is different. What you're communicating, how you're using it. But the physical ability, because unlike other dances in India, Chau, like Western dance, starts from your core. Now that everyone does Pilates, they've heard of their core.
Right? Core exercise.
Yes, core. Okay, the core is where you start. So basically, when Indian dancers see Chau, oh, look, that leg's up in the air. It doesn't start from there. It starts from the core. So this happens, and then it comes out of that. So it's just wonderful movement, my guru, Krishna Chandra Nayak. I love him, and everything I do for Chow is out of a responsibility to him. He reminds me of my beloved maternal grandfather. And he so much wanted me to be representing his art, even though officially he didn't get the chance. He would even request me to do the demonstration for the Bharti Kala Kendra ballet students, because he says, I don't have the energy to repeat. And they don't come for class, so they need extra practice to pick up to do the ballet. And I said, Guruji, I'm 8.5 months pregnant. And he's like, doesn't matter, just do it. You know, so I did.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for talking to nationalkhabar.com.
A pleasure.
Next time again we'll meet with a new personality. Till then, bye-bye.